Good evening. This is Luke Revin, manager here at East Brandywine Township. I'm addressing you in my capacity as the online moderator for this conditional use hearing. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and to protect the health and safety of township officials and our residents, the board is conducting this meeting via webinar. This meeting is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on the township's YouTube channel. Members of the public can hear us, but your own phones and computer microphones are muted, so we cannot hear you. To enable an organized meeting, we're using the following procedure. As with in-person meetings, I ask that all participants wait to be recognized by the hearing officer before speaking, and that all comments be directed to the hearing officer. To be recognized, you must first ask me, in my capacity as the online moderator of this webinar, to unmute your audio connection. You may request this at any time via the chat feature, which is located on the left side of your screen. I'll now turn the meeting over to Mr. Jonas.
Thank you, Luke. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to begin by reading the legal notice. This is a hearing on the application, and the acronym of the property owner is BAPS, B-A-P-S, which seeks a conditional use to permit a religious use pursuant to section 399-39.B2 of the zoning ordinance. The parcels in question are zoned TND-1 traditional neighborhood development and are located at 1155 and 1157 Horseshoe Pike, parcel numbers 3570.1 and 3570.2. This is a quasi-judicial hearing as part of a public meeting. I'm going to identify what will be the hearing exhibits for the township. There are 16 of them. The number one is the conditional use application and cover letter from counsel for the applicant, Louis Colagreco. Number two is a plan entitled zoning site plan. Number three is a traffic impact assessment. Number four is a purchase and sale agreement. Number five is a list of properties adjacent to the two parcels that we're discussing tonight. Number six is an aerial photograph. Number seven is a plan entitled aerial plan. Number eight is a review letter by Pennoni, the township engineer. Number nine is a review letter issued by Hydroterra Professionals, the township authority engineer. Number 10 are the meeting minutes from the Township Planning Commission. Number 11 is a review letter issued by the township traffic engineer. Number 12 is a plan set consisting of 4 sheets. Sheet 1 is a zoning site plan. Sheet 1.1 is a fire truck turning and detail plan. Sheet 2.0 is a landscaping and lighting plan. Sheet 2.1 is landscaping and lighting details. Township Exhibit 13 is a response letter issued by Holmes Cunningham Engineering. Township Exhibit 14 is a response letter issued by Traffic Planning and Design. Number 15 is a review letter issued by Arrow Consulting Inc. Number 16 is the affidavit of publication. Important to note that this being a hearing, we are going to ask parties to identify themselves. Parties are different than members of the general public. Parties will include the applicant, and then we will give the opportunity for anyone who wants to be a party in interest to the application. Because this is a hearing, only parties may present evidence or cross-examine witnesses. At the end, we will allow for public comment, but to begin with, we are going to ask for the introduction of parties. We know that the applicant is represented by counsel. Mr. Colagreco, would you like to identify yourself and your applicant?
Yes, thank you, Mark. Luke Colagreco representing the applicant, and we will also go by the acronym tonight, BAPS.
You're not going to pronounce it for us, Luke.
No, I'm not going to try.
Thank you. How many witnesses will you have tonight?
We will have 3 witnesses.
Now we'll ask, are there any persons who are signed in, and we'll ask them to notify who wish to have party status. In order to have party status, you have to, one, own real estate near the property. You have to be affected by this application in a way that is different than any member of the general public. If you are a party, you will have the applicant's counsel will have the opportunity to ask questions to determine whether the applicant has an objection to party standing. If you are a party, you will have the right to present evidence including the testimony of witnesses, and you will have the right to cross-examine witnesses of the applicant's experts as well. You will also have standing to appeal if you choose to appeal the decision of the Board of Supervisors. Ultimately, this case will be decided by the Board of Supervisors as a conditional use. The board has the power under statute to impose reasonable conditions. A conditional use, just for clarification, is a form of permitted use. So for those of you who have been to zoning hearing board matters and listened to cases about variances and hardship, this is none of that. This is a conditional use application before the Board of Supervisors for a use that is a permitted use, following the applicant's proving that it is in fact a use that is permitted, and requiring the applicant to prove that it has satisfied the express standards for conditional use approval set forth in the ordinance. So having made that very long statement, is there anyone who has signed in who wishes to be a party to this hearing?
All right. If this was a physical room, that would be a very straightforward question. The people in the audience who wish party status would just stand up. This is a remote meeting, so in my capacity as the online moderator, I reiterate that anyone who wants to get the attention of the hearing officer needs to use the attendee chat feature, which is located on the left side of the screen. I can see, Kyle, you are talking. Your voice is, your microphone is muted.
Were you able to get Jen via voice for the swearing in?
Yes, the court reporter is available for any witnesses when we get to that point. All right, Mr. Jonas, I see no one requesting their microphones be unmuted or in written form requesting party status.
Thank you, Luke. Lou, since there are no parties in interest, I will offer you the option, if you would like, to present an offer of proof and then have witnesses confirm the test or the offer that you have made in support of the application. It's certainly your option.
It's probably easier at this point, Mark, for me just to have my witnesses run through it. I know they've prepared long for this day in the sun, so I'm going to put them on briefly and have them go through this as quickly as they can, if that's okay with you.
That's absolutely fine. It's your case. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. We have three witnesses. I was going to do a long introduction, but the solicitor has accurately set forth why we're here. So barring the need for any further introduction, I'm going to ask that my first witness be identify himself and be sworn. Darshan?
Like he's mute.
Darshan, is your microphone on?
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Darshan Patel.
You have to be sworn. You have to be sworn here, Darshan. I think the court reporter is going to ask you.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Would you please spell your first and last names for the court reporter?
Sure. My first name is Darshan, D-A-R-S-H-A-N.
And Darshan, what is your business address?
Our address is 1561 Woodbourne Road, W-O-O-D-B-O-U-R-N-E Road, Levittown, PA, 19057.
And what is your role with the...
Luke, could you just please spell your last name as well?
Sorry, my last name is Patel, P-A-T-E-L.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Mm-hmm. What is your role with the BAPS?
I'm a volunteer administrator for BAPS and representing them on this project.
And you've been authorized to appear tonight, make representations on behalf of BAPS, and to bind the applicant through your testimony, correct?
That is correct, I have.
And we've previously identified, marked, and I think the board already has copies of Exhibit A3 and A4. A3 is the deed to the property. A4 is the agreement of sale through which the applicant is asserting equitable ownership, correct?
We can accept the standing of the applicant to seek zoning relief.
Thank you. Darshan, explain to the board and those who may be listening a little bit about who the applicant is and what you do.
Sure. BAPS, known as Bochasanwasi, Shree, Akshar, Purushottam, Swaminarayan Sanstha, is a Hindu organization dedicated to the spiritual and social progress of individuals, families, and communities. BAPS does this by caring for their spiritual, cultural, and social needs. We seek to inspire people to live a pure life free of addictions and be contributing members of society. We have a charitable arm, BAPS Charity, that has been engaging in a wide array of activities and projects such as health fairs, blood drives, food drives, as well as holding walkathons to raise money for local charities and community organizations. During the recent COVID lockdown, we helped by donating PPE equipment to frontline workers and provided hot meals to those in need. BAPS has few centers in Metro Philadelphia area. Members of our congregation who currently live in this area are traveling to locations in Delaware or Hatfield. When looking for a place to build a temple, we look for many of the same things that other organizations look for: a suitable place to gather, proximity to highways, ample parking, and a wonderful community. We felt East Brandywine Township met all those requirements, and furthermore, many of our members of our congregation already live in the township and surrounding areas, and we feel this will be the ideal location for our congregation. Thank you.
Darshan, explain to the Board of Supervisors the activities that occur at the temple and the frequency of those activities.
Right, so our activities occur on Sundays. We have a service from 4 to 6, but our day starts roughly around 11 o'clock. People start coming in slowly, staggering in to help prepare, whether it's preparing the presentation stuff like a computer or a projector, or preparing as far as cleaning, vacuuming, doing maintenance work. So we have people slowly staggering in from 11 o'clock. Our official service starts between 4 and 6. That's when we use the main hall. We have activities rooms for the kids to play games because, as you guys know, they have short attention spans. So the activity room helps them, stay engaged in different activities and games while the adults can listen to the service. After 6 o'clock, our service is done, and we have few members who sometimes stay for a potluck type dinner. So they may bring some food. A lot of our members would go home and eat at home. Some of them would stay and participate in the potluck dinner. And around 7 o'clock, we're usually done. We're winding up and closing the place down. It's limited almost entirely to Sunday. And, there are times during the weekdays we may have small meetings or someone may come for maintenance, but almost all our services are always on Sundays.
And you explained to me and you explained to the Planning Commission that unlike other denominations, there are no funerals or weddings that would occur at this location. Is that correct?
That is correct. We will not have any funerals, weddings, or any non-BAPS type activities. This is strictly for our members to meet and have service on Sundays, and that's it.
And you mentioned two townships in which you presently operate, and I believe you asked those townships if they would be willing to provide recommendations to East Brandywine. We've marked those exhibits, Exhibit A14 and A15. Can you explain those exhibits in greater detail and your operations briefly in those municipalities?
Sure. We have two temples located, one Warrington and one in Hatfield. Those facilities have Warrington has about 75 to 100 members. Hatfield has about 125 to 150 members. We've asked their townships at their own discretion if they would like to provide us any kind of recommendation letter, since we've been very active in the community and we plan on being active in this community. And they provided us with the letters that are in front of you that Lou has provided. and it's something you guys can review at your own discretion.
And for record purposes, Exhibit A14 is from the Hatfield Township, and Exhibit A15 is from Warrington. I don't have any further questions for this witness.
Thank you.
Any members of the Board of Supervisors have any questions for the witness?
I have none.
I have one question. When you indicate that you anticipate 75 to 125 people at this location, how did you arrive at that number? And is that an adult number? And would that be the present number? And is that a number that can increase in the future?
Right. So for the initial years, that's what our projection is. We can't predict the future, obviously, but at least for the initial years, that's what we project. That is a total number that includes adults, children, everyone. It's not a adult-only number, and it's a number that's based off what we have. As I said, in Warrington, we have 7,500 people. In Hatfield, we have about 125 to 150 people. So it's based off those communities, how many members we have, congregational members we have in those communities, and it's an estimate that we made based off that.
How many do you have members now in East Brandywine Township?
Yes, we do have members in East Brandywine Township. We have about, I want to say somewhere between 7 families. So not members, but families. And there are other families who are not as frequent, so they do come to our temple, but they're not, every weekday, every weekend type of members, but they do come occasionally.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Your next witness, Luke?
Ben Barlin, please. I ask you identify yourself and be sworn.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Benjamin Barland.
Spell your name, please.
It's Benjamin. Last name Barland, Barland.
Would you raise your right hand for? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Ben, what is your business address and who is your employer?
My employer is Holmes Cunningham Engineering. Our business address is 409 East Butler, Butler Avenue, Unit 5. That's Doylestown, Pennsylvania, 18901.
Mark, I could go through the credentials of Mr. Barland. I submitted his resume as Exhibit A7, his CV rather, and he has been accepted as an expert in other hearings. I would ask that he be accepted in this one as well.
Could we just ask, I'm very familiar with his firm and its reputation. Can you just ask him just to pinpoint where he's been accepted as an expert and in what field?
Sure. Ben, do you have a list of representative municipalities where you have either zoning boards or boards of supervisors? And I would assume the field is civil engineering, but you can answer that question.
Sure. So around here, it would be Newtown Township, Whitpain Township, and Salem Township. I've been accepted as an expert witness in civil engineering and other zoning hearing boards as well.
And you hold a professional registration or licensure at the current time?
I do, yes.
And what is that licensure?
It's a professional engineering license in the state of Pennsylvania. And I can give you my license number if you'd like.
No, that would be a burden in my mind. Thank you. Lou, you're offering him as an expert in civil engineering, zoning, and land development?
I am, yes. Thank you.
He's accepted in those fields.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barland, you're familiar with the ordinances of East Brandywine Township, correct?
Yes.
And your office prepared Exhibit A6, which we're calling the revised conditional use plan.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
If we could, I don't know who's controlling the screen here, but if we could put up Exhibit A6, most of your testimony would probably be from this exhibit.
All right, I'm projecting applicant's Exhibit A6.
Okay, I'm not, oh, there we go. Perfect.
I
Thank
had
you.
to zoom. The exhibit number is quite small. I had to zoom in quite a bit.
No problem. Ben, without me taking you through, song and verse here, why don't you describe for the board what Exhibit A6 depicts? I assume it's what the site will look like, assuming the conditional use is approved, correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right. What's the size of the existing building?
The existing building, I believe, is about, I want to say 15 to 20,000 square feet.
Okay. And there's no land development proposed with this application. This is a turnkey use. The applicant intends to move into the existing building. No additions are proposed, correct?
That's correct.
How much parking will there be on the property if the use is approved and developed according to this plan?
There will be 84 spaces of parking.
And how many spaces are required pursuant to the ordinances of East Brandywine Township?
The ordinance requires 54 spaces, so we're well ahead of that.
The planning, you were at the Planning Commission with me, I guess last week or the week before, I forget, and the Planning Commission asked for a couple of considerations to be made to the plan. I'm going to walk you through them briefly. The first consideration it asked for was, would it be possible to, I'll use the words fill in some of the screening gap behind the building where it abuts the residential community. And did you do that? Does Exhibit A6 depict additional landscape screening back there?
We did. It's depicted on the landscape and lighting plan, which is a different plan sheet than the one that's currently shown.
Okay, so if we punch that up, the board would see where that additional landscaping is. So you're saying it doesn't show up? The screen is so small for me here, I can't even see with my own eyes. That looks like the landscape plan.
Yeah, so we added the trees that have been zoomed in on the northern end of the property, as well as the small circles on the eastern end. Those are trees as well.
The existing lighting on the property is non-conforming. Why don't you explain to the board what type of parking lot and building lighting parking lot lighting is presently on the premises?
In the existing conditions, there are 2 pole-mounted lights, one near each driveway. They're, like Lou mentioned, they're not conforming right now. They project inward to the site and down into the parking lot. But we're proposing to supplement those with the parking lot lights shown on the plan there.
Well, that was my next question. How many additional lights are you proposing to put in the parking lot?
2 light posts.
And it was the request of the Planning Commission that any additional lighting be minimal at best, correct?
Correct.
And of course, building lighting would be pursuant to the building code. And when the fit up application is presented to the township, you'll show additional building lighting?
Yeah, I would imagine so, yes.
Okay. Are there, the Planning Commission also referenced the fact that we may want to gate and secure the facility at night, especially, well, not especially, but from the Route 322 access. Do you show that security gates on this plan?
We do on Exhibit A6.
Okay. And what would that be? Essentially a chain in front of each existing access point to the property?
Yeah, it could be a chain, or it could be a metal pole gate like you'd see on a farm.
There were also various requests made by the traffic consultant for the township, as well as the township engineer, regarding reduction of parking spaces. I'm going to ask you to just simply paraphrase, if you can, what that request was and how those requests have been accommodated on Exhibit A6.
Sure. So there were 2 requests. One was that we eliminate the parking area on the western edge of the site. So we've left that in place because we'd like to not disturb any land, but we have gore marked that to indicate that it's an area of no parking. In addition, the 2 internal parking islands, you can see on the plan those half circle shapes of painted off islands. Those are parking spaces that were removed as well.
You've reviewed the Hydroterra review letter as well. I think that's marked as, I forget what exhibit we marked it as. I know the township marked it. But that has to do with sewage, and you're in the process of working through the necessary sewage capacity with the municipal authority, correct?
We are, yes.
Lou, that's your Exhibit A10, I believe.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Yes, and we had no other issues with the Hydroterra review. And I think you've touched on the accommodations that were made pursuant to the other review letters. Let's go to the Pennoni review letter, which I believe is Exhibit A12. You've already testified to certain of the accommodations that have been made to the plan in response to that letter. Are there a few other comments that you would wish to speak to and to clarify?
Yeah, there are. So, comment number 4. We're not proposing new land development or any land disturbance or anything of that nature. So I don't believe that the zoning ordinance sections that they mention in comment 4 apply to this project, including the public realm plan, which is section 399-42L, the manual of written and graphic design guidelines, which is appendix B of the zoning ordinance, or the section on trails, which is 399-82D1.
We've already touched on Pennoni comment number 6 regarding lighting. You've addressed that. You've already addressed comment 11 regarding additional landscaping. And are there any other comments on that Pennoni letter which you wish to bring to the board's attention?
Yeah, so the Pennoni letter seems to be written with an eye slightly toward land development. And I'd like to just point out again that we're not proposing land development. The existing site is proposed to remain as it is today, with the exceptions of the request that the Planning Commission made, which we pointed out earlier. And even the building envelope is proposed to stay the same. It's just an inside renovation. So I don't believe this qualifies as a land development.
So if the board is looking to this site after development, what it will essentially see is the same building. It will see 2 additional parking lot lights. It will see security gating, and it will see a restriped parking lot, correct?
That's correct.
And has the fire truck template been submitted to the fire marshal or the fire chief for review?
It has been submitted to the fire marshal and the fire chief. We don't have any letters from them yet. However, we can provide those when they're available.
You're familiar, you testified earlier, with the zoning ordinance, specifically section 399, 137D as in dog, which are the standards for conditional use that the applicant must meet in the township. Do you believe that this application complies with the applicable standards?
I do, yes.
And you're familiar with the township's comprehensive plan, are you not?
I am.
And is this application consistent with the comprehensive plan, in your opinion?
Yes.
Is there anything that you're aware of in your design or your review of this application which would suggest that this use is incompatible with the area surrounding it?
No, it's designed as a multi-use corridor. I think it fits well with the residential uses around it. You know, it'll serve the community as a religious institution.
And is there anything unique about this use that would present an imposition on public services, utilities to the subject property?
No, I don't believe so.
The property, is it serviced by public water already?
I believe it's private water with a well, and it's public sewer.
Public sewer. Hang on for just a second. I think I might be done with you. That's it. I have no further questions for this witness.
Thank you. Do any of these supervisors have any questions of the witness?
No.
None.
Mr. Sherback?
None.
Mr. Sherback?
None. Good.
Thank you. Lou, your next witness.
Thank you. Eric Ostumchek. Are you on, Eric?
I am. Yeah,
all right.
Let me see. Did my video pop up? It's not there, right?
I don't see your video, but I don't need to look at you again.
We see enough of each other.
That's right. Your audio is fine.
Right.
Spell your name for the court reporter.
Yes, Eric with a C, Ostumchuk, Ostim as in Mary, Chuk.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Eric, you've already stated your name. Can you give your place of employment, your business address?
Yes, Vice President of Transportation Planning for Traffic Planning and Design, address 2500 East High Street, Pottstown, Pennsylvania.
And I've already submitted, or I've also submitted your CV, I believe, is on my exhibit list here. Mark, I don't know if you're familiar with Eric and his work previously, but I would go through the same line of questioning with him. Eric, have you been accepted as an expert witness in the field of traffic engineering and design in other municipalities?
Yes.
And what are some of those municipalities?
East Whiteland, Tredyffrin, Willistown, Newtown Township, Delaware County, just off the top of my head, some nearby ones that might be applicable.
Lou, and you're offering Mr. Obsenchuk as a expert in traffic planning and traffic engineering?
I am.
Well, everyone's well aware of TPD, and if we didn't accept him as an expert, I'd probably get a call from Matt Hammond, so we'll accept him as an expert.
Nobody wants
very
that.
Much. Thank you. Eric, I'm going to let you free flow here. I'm not going to ask you Q&A here. I'm just going to ask you to describe for the board the summary of your traffic report, which has already been introduced as an exhibit of record, or which is being introduced as an exhibit of record.
Certainly. We completed a traffic impact study, traffic impact assessment, I believe is the title on the exhibit, based on the PennDOT methodology. And typical items that are evaluated in that type of assessment are the impacts due to, in this case, a proposed change in use on the adjoining roadway and evaluating the access points for operations and safety. What's interesting about this use, as you noted in Mr. Patel's testimony, is that there would be limited activity, Monday through Saturday. But we did evaluate the typical peak hours during a weekday, which to most people they would call them the rush hours. But we kind of focused our efforts towards the Sunday operations because that's when we would anticipate the most traffic. So we did evaluate Sunday operations as well as the typical weekday operations for the use. We evaluate the operations at the driveway, found that those are acceptable during the rush hours and certainly on Sunday when there's less traffic along Route 322. It's interesting to acknowledge that, compared with the previous use on the site as a hardware store, when you look at a weekend operation for a hardware store versus the proposed use, it's very comparable in terms of traffic. And certainly during the week, with the limited use, it would be much less than you would typically see from a hardware store operation. So we did analyze the operations at the driveway, found acceptable operations per PennDOT standards. We also evaluated the need for any additional lanes that would be, right turn lane into the site or a left turn lane into the site. We found that those were not necessary or warranted at the location, given the use. Lastly, we evaluated the site distance, the sight lines for the existing driveways, and found those to meet or exceed the applicable requirements for sight lines.
Does the road system providing access to the property have sufficient capacity to accommodate the use?
Yes, based on the traffic impact assessment, it does.
And does your report indicate that there would be any diminution in levels of service to abutting roadways and intersections?
No.
Okay. And you did prepare, I should have started with this. You are the author of Exhibit A16, correct?
I am.
And you're also the author of Exhibit A13, which is your response letter
Yes.
to the Township's review.
Yes.
Mr. Heinrich's review is dated Exhibit A11. Did you see anything in that correspondence or that review, Exhibit A11, that you had issue with?
With regard to the traffic impact assessment, no. The response that we've noted, addresses Mr. Heinrich's concerns. We looked at the generation, assuming the seating capacity of 135, as he noted, as well as indication that we have started conversations with PennDOT regarding any permitting requirements for the site. That's
an important point that I neglected to bring up. This is subject to PennDOT permitting, and you are in that process, correct?
Right. It's slightly atypical as it is an existing site. There's no anticipated physical changes to the driveway access points. However, these predate any type of permitting process with PennDOT. So, PennDOT, in order to cover PennDOT and the applicant, future owner of the site, it behooves them to pursue those permits from PennDOT, and we have started that process with them. Had discussions with PennDOT about permitting these existing driveways, and we've done this in nearby municipalities, and it's a fairly straightforward approach when they exist.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions for this witness.
Does any member of the Board of Supervisors have any questions for Mr. Ostenchuk?
I have a question. Driveways are going to continue having entrance and exit at both driveways?
Yes, that's correct. That's the anticipated operations.
Okay.
And I'll piggyback off of that. What's the traffic going to be like after service? For instance, St. Joe's Catholic Church just up the road, they have, I believe, somebody that they use for directing traffic after the Mass. Are you guys planning on anything like that?
No, we are not. You'll see in let me take a step back. We prepared our study based on the religious use published data with regard to traffic generation and utilize that for our operations. As Mr. Patel testified to, it's slightly different than some people might see in their religious services, whereas you have, everyone arrives 10 minutes before service, everyone departs within that 10-minute span after service ends. This is more of an all-day affair with people starting to arrive throughout the day at 11 o'clock, 5 hours in advance of the formal service. And then at the end, some may stay around and have, fellowship and the like. So the operations, and Mr. Heinrich notes in his letter that, we were conservative in our evaluation of that traffic generation. And even under that conservative analysis, we found that vehicles will be able to exit the driveway in a very adequate manner.
Any other questions by any member of the Board of Supervisors?
I have none further.
Luke?
Mark? Oh,
Do you have anything further, Luke?
I do not. No, that concludes my case, and I would just move for the admission of my exhibits.
All of the exhibits are admitted. Lou, I don't know if you have any closing comments, but I did want to ask you, as you know, we submitted from the solicitor's office a list of 18 possible conditions that the Board of Supervisors might consider. I got some feedback. I spoke to Debbie Schultz, and she provided comment with regard to conditions, our proposed conditions, being my conditions of 1, 6, 7, 13, and 16. With those modifications, can I report to the board that those 18 conditions with those 5 modifications are acceptable to the applicant?
Yes.
Do you have, and the board may have some additional comments or conditions based on the evidence heard tonight. Do you have any closing comments or argument?
No, I don't. I would just like to thank the township. I mean, this process has been extremely efficient. I thought the planning commission meeting went well, and we appreciate the immediate feedback that we've gotten and the interactivity between the township's consultants. It's been very accommodating, and we're thankful for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then members of the Board of Supervisors, based on that, I think it is appropriate. We can open this up now to public comment. This is, again, comment only. So if anyone has any comment, this will be the time to do that. Luke, it's on you now.
Lou, while we're waiting on the public comment, do you happen to have any pictures of the other 2 units, the current temples, by chance?
Not in our exhibit package, we don't. I don't know if you could. This is beyond my field of expertise. You could probably Google them up or something, but I don't want to.
It's not. I understand the footprint staying the same. It might be different for all of them. I'm not sure.
The one and Darshan, you can speak to this. My understanding is that one of them is fairly large, and it's a fairly well, a large, the one that has 7,500 families, and one of them's fairly small, but I don't know how to describe it other than that.
Hey, Lou, I have a question for you. I meant to ask earlier, are there going to be any security cameras outside the building, and/or are they going to have a third-party fire burglar alarm system?
I don't know the answer to that. I would think, when we discussed it previously, I think security alarms would be a wait and see approach.
Okay.
We're hoping that they're not needed, but if they are, they would certainly be installed. I assume that whatever code would require for fire alarms will be installed as well. But the security cameras, I think we're hoping we don't need to, but who knows in this day and age.
Right. Okay.
Luke, anyone want to make any public comment? What do you see?
Yes, Mr. Jonas, I have one speaker. It is East Brandywine Township Chief of Police, Mark Cosi. Mark, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. The question I have is in regards to the gates or chains that are in the proposal and recommended by the Planning Commission. Is that something that the temple desires, or is that something that the Planning Commission thought should be included in the plan? Because my concern with that would be our ability to get onto the property to check the buildings at night and during patrol. And my concern for the fire company, and they can speak, on this, but I don't believe any of them are on the call. It would be getting onto that property during an emergency, during gathering hours. So it would not be my desire to see a gate or chain up across those entrances. I think that the one that is there now was there because the prior occupant stored equipment, stone, block on the property, and they had a theft issue periodically, and they stuck those chains up to prevent vehicles from coming in and stealing the stuff. But I don't believe that would be a problem with this use, and I would just like some, you to consider that.
Yeah, that was a request. We had originally not proposed that type of gating or security. The Planning Commission raised the concern that the lot might be used by tractor trailers at night or kids or people pulling in there. But if the police it, which I understand based on this comment that you do, maybe that's not a concern. And maybe just like with the security cameras, we take a wait and see attitude. If we don't have a problem with it, Darshan, I don't want to speak with you, but you don't need to gate it. That was in response to a suggestion. But ultimately, if we did need to gate it, we would do it in consultation with the police and the fire company. We don't want to cause any problems. Darshan, do you have anything to add to that, or did I misstate that?
No, I think what you said, Lou, was perfectly okay. I mean, we want to be cooperative with the township in every way. So whatever the township recommends, whether you want a gate, chain, no chain, we will accommodate to that request.
Yeah, I think if you are going to consider security cameras and they cover the area and the property fairly well, you may not have a need for the gate and the fences. We are in that area constantly. I mean, you are quarter mile from the police station, so I can promise you we'll be in your parking lot. So it's just something we can discuss later, but I just wanted to make that note.
Thank you.
Chief, does that satisfy your concerns? Luke, is there any other public comment?
There are no other individuals seeking to have their microphones unmuted or have typed comment in the attendee chat section of the webinar platform.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's my recommendation that we can adjourn the hearing. The board has 45 days to render findings and a decision.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The hearing's adjourned. Thank you very much, Lou.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.